and this is the addition here, and we will be providing some larger openings with a patio just to sort of enliven the back of the building a little bit, and that you can see here. And that's pretty much it. It's a pretty simple project. Can I answer any questions?
Questions on the part of the commission? Or questions on the part of the community? As was noted, the applicant made a presentation to the French Street Neighbors Association last night, and they were in general support of the project. They did specifically want to make sure that the flag test was reviewed by the Historic Preservation Office staff, and that throughout the construction and at the end of construction, that the fact that the addition could not be seen from across the street as required is confirmed. So this is in my similar district. I will make a motion to have ANC 6E support the project for an addition at 919 R Street Northwest, and it would communicate that support to the Historic Preservation Review Board and urge that the Historic Preservation staff confirm that the addition is not visible through the flag test, construction, and completion of construction stages. And I would ask for a second.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. That's unanimous. 7-0.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, was there a...
I thought.
Thank you.
Okay, so, yes, for the record, because we do not have our minute taker here this evening, I made the motion. It was seconded by Commissioner Chappell, and again, the vote was 7-0. Next zoning case is 1525 9th Street Northwest. This is a request for a special exception to allow ground floor retail other than office use.
My name is Joe Gaon. I'm here on behalf of Holland and Knight. We represent the applicant, 1525 9th Street LLC. They are the owner of the property at 1525 9th Street. Their property is currently used on the first floor as an office. It's been vacant for approximately 1 year, and above is residential use. The applicant is asking for a request to change the non-conforming use only on the first floor to any retail or service establishment that's permitted in the C1 district, or to continue their office use. We have met with the zoning subcommittee last week, and they voted to support the application subject to certain conditions. We have submitted a letter to Commissioner Padro agreeing to those conditions. We have worked extensively with the community. The neighbors to the north support the application. There have been discussions with the neighbors to the south. At this time, they seem to remain neutral to the application, and if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So for folks that may not be familiar with that particular block, this building was Walter T. Daniels' plumbing shop, and he lived above. That's the namesake for the Shaw Library. And then in more recent years, it was an insurance agency, a nationwide insurance agency. It's been vacant for about a year and a half. And the agency moved a block to the south, and there have been difficulties in identifying a tenant for this property. So that's why there's an effort to try to expand the options related to potential retail tenant. As the attorney for the applicant mentioned, there were some concerns that were raised by an adjacent residential property owner, and I'm going to ask them to make any statement that they'd like to make related to this in a moment. But it's a rather extensive list of concessions that have been made, including restrictions on the hours of operation, so that there is no business being transacted there after 10:30 p.m. on Sundays through Thursdays, and nothing after 11 o'clock on Fridays and Saturdays, that the tenants would not have the ability to request an entertainment endorsement, either for live or recorded music and entertainment from the ABC board in the event that there is an alcohol license associated, for the tenant. There's soundproofing, the construction of the trash room, the requirement for daily trash removal, deliveries restricted to 7 a.m. to, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and nothing later than that. No trash pickup during those hours, and it goes on. There's a list, the letter has been included in the packet that I emailed to members of the commission, but if anybody wants to actually see the letter, we have a copy that we can pass along. And we do have also a letter from the owner of the property to the north, which is a commercial property, it's not residential, that's at 1527 9th Street Northwest, in case anybody wants to see that. Residents of 1523 9th Street Northwest, if you'd like to come forward. Sure.
I'm Jason Brown, this is Jackie Weiss. We've lived at the property for 10 years, and we've basically, as they said, we've had an office tenant next to us, which worked out very well. We live in a small row house. We share the common wall, which borders the southern portion of the house. While we really appreciate all of those concessions, we are still very, very concerned about basically potential sound transferal, vermin transferal, odor transferal. We share a common light well, which we have our window open sometimes, and we're basically, the office use worked well for us, but we're very concerned about the wide world of possibilities by expanding it to retail. The front of our house and the adjacent place are right up on the sidewalk. So
this is that place, and this is our store.
yeah,
Which is,
so that's
we
the
have
place
a
at issue.
small,
That's our
tiny,
little house. We've had a small problem in the past of basically, because we're right up on the sidewalk, people wanting to use the business on the street, basically kind of taking a pit stop on our stoop. We're concerned if you expand it into a retail or service type environment, that's only going to increase. There'll be an increase of garbage, potential increase of noise going into the evening, and basically despite those concessions, we still just feel we're letting ourselves in for a world of hurt with this.
It's like so we got the property, we had the office use next door, and we're used to that. And we're, it's like aware it's no residential zone, our residents, and the commercial property as an office use was relatively quiet and was very close to us and was right next door. And thinking about it as a retail use, people coming in and out, possibly doing that, possibly garbage. We've spent a lot of time already, it's like dealing with possible vermin issues and like making sure things are sealed off. And just as that expands and possible noises, it's just when the owner of the property next door came to us, like actually relatively recently, just like a couple of weeks, it's like ago, about like asking us about stipulations. And we tried to like work with that. It was just a very short time frame, so kind of like we sort of temporarily tried to have like look at the stipulations to give us a little bit more time to see if we could be comfortable with sort of the change of use of the property. And we just sort of after the initial time and as time went by, it's like realized that in fact, like just the number of possibilities and uses that were in there as a retail, even with those stipulations, just didn't make us feel comfortable not having like, any possible retail uses next door.
Question, sir.
Information question. What is the nature of the business? The nature of the retail business that you're doing?
We're just trying to apply for a range of uses. The concern right now is that if we tie down a specific use, that 3 years from now, if the tenant doesn't work out, then we have to come back to the Board of Zoning Adjustment and ask for another change of use. And it's pretty cost prohibitive for us to do that. So we're asking for a range of uses, and we've laid out a number of conditions to try and limit any noise, any vermin. We're putting a trash receptacle inside, we're installing soundproofing, we're agreeing to those sorts of stipulations to alleviate any of the concerns of any of the neighbors.
So I have a question for the residents there. So where this is, you've got a lot of action on that block anyway. You're right across the street from Shiloh Inn. You have the Queen of Sheba, you've got the Chaplains right there at the corner. So you're worried about your little niche there.
Well,
Well,
essentially what we
So,
have is.
I guess that's my
I mean,
thing.
no, but I mean, the Queen of Sheba and, you know,
It's probably- I get
Chapel is
that.
way the heck down the
Correct,
block
but-
as well. I mean, it's like, you know, halfway down the block.
So you're asking for just to isolate your, I mean, I empathize with you. And
You know,
get
I
that,
mean, I
but you're-
understand, but we're next to 3 residences on the other side.
Basically,
But your
you-
block already has
have-
residents and has across street from a major church, so I guess
I mean,
I feel like
it
we
is-
would be
it's a
voting to
residential zone.
shelter you.
I mean,
from-
well, it's not simply sheltering us, I mean, as I said, we're next to 3 residences on the other side,
Yeah.
and on the other side from the Swatch Room, which is the use next to it, it's residents all the way down to the end.
Yeah,
So on that entire side, I mean, and certainly, I mean, and Shiloh is on the other side, and as a church use, I mean, they're not a retail establishment, I mean, they're a church, I mean.
Well, they're busy,
and
they're-
There's
they're
movement on
busy.
Sunday, but
Yeah.
otherwise, and working, but otherwise there's not. I mean, the Chaplains and Shaw is at the, you know, corner end, which is, you know, 3 houses, a parking lot, you know, it's a daycare, which is like about 3 lots, you know, and 2 other buildings away. I mean, so that's not, you know, asking us to like isolate, you know, our special zone. I mean, there's 3 residences, you know, 2 other residences next to us on the other side, in addition to our house.
I'm sorry, so yours is right next to it?
Yes.
We
we're
share
right-
the common wall.
We share a common wall.
Yeah.
There's a question in the back.
When did the current owner acquire 1525?
I'm not sure of the exact date, but he's been the owner for quite some time.
I think it was 2004.
Yeah, I know it's over 10 years, but I'm not sure the exact date.
Yeah, I know that the insurance agency moved in 2005. And it was vacant for a number of years before. So.
let me ask you, so what if we vote to support your request, but then this sits empty for a while? I mean, you can't always, I don't feel that necessarily we have to go, okay, only a gift shop or only no food or, I mean, I just can't.
Well, I'm not asking, well, actually, I'm asking to no retail establishment. I mean, to the zoning to remain the same, which is how he bought the property. I mean, he bought the property as a residential building with an exception for an office use. You know, I mean, and that's was the expectation that he would have to find an office tenant for that property with the current zoning that was allowable. So he's asking to expand that because he hasn't been able to find a current tenant, which I understand is like, that's a problem for him. However, at the same time, with that expanded zoning use, I did not, when I bought my property next door was limited to office use exception in a residential area. And it's going to affect, you know, it's like, I'm concerned not only just for my quality of life, but like the most important investment that I've ever made is going to decrease in value with, you know, the possible like louder, you know, retail uses next door. I mean, that's, you know, it's like, I understand that he's had difficulty, you know, it's like renting the place and finding a tenant, but, you know, he acquired the property knowing what the status of the property was and what the limitations were on being able to rent it out.
It's also important to note that there were some other changes that are taking place on the block. Late last year, after the commission supported a special exception from 1544, 9th Street Northwest, where the Shaw Bijou restaurant is going to be going in. The BZA granted that relief. There are 3 buildings immediately to the south of where the Shaw Bijou is located, or will be located when they open. That belongs to the National Park Service. The Carnegie Woodson Home National Historic Site is being established there and is currently under construction. And then in the middle of the east side of the block, the empty lot and also 1533 9th Street Northwest buildings and property that are owned by Shiloh Baptist Church. BZA has approved special exceptions for office uses, for the existing building and for a new building to be built there. So, you know, the character of the block is in the process of changing. So it's important to keep that in mind as well. I did see another question. Yes.
I wanted to ask, have you all considered it's a bit problematic to leave a building vacant. So
Sure.
if you keep it vacant, you may have more trouble than you think you may have
Right.
dealing with retail. So I mean, I'm just saying for community use,
Right.
vacant buildings aren't
Yeah.
good
Well, I
at all.
guess-
So keep
Well,
it-
The building itself is not vacant because there's a residential tenant upstairs. So in that sense, it's not like, you know, an abandoned building. Frankly, from our point of view, it's been nice and quiet. But we understand that can't stop, you know, it needs to be another
I
office
mean,
tenant,
there
something
has
like
been
that.
someone next door, but
But
also,
you
it's
mentioned
on that
people
block,
waste,
there's-
you know,
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
you know, not, if
Right.
it's not open, people will still
Right.
do what they do in the building,
Yeah.
in front of the
Yeah.
building.
And I guess as we are, like, I mean, like, truly next door, to the extent that there was a problem with the building, I mean, we were aware and want to take care of that, and I've done that before when we had a vacant building, but at the same time, is like, we have about 6 vacant buildings on the other side of the street that are owned by Shiloh Baptist Church, so I mean, there's a number of vacant buildings, like, already on the street, and so whether or not sort of the downstairs of, the occupied to the second floor, which we, sort of monitor regularly. I mean, it's like we call the property manager when the heat isn't off and it's gotten cold, so the pipes won't burst, so it's like we're not overall concerned about that.
So one other hand, ma'am, did you have a comment?
I have a question,
Sure, go
before you
ahead.
speak. Has the owner ever thought about making the bottom floor residential, or converting into a residential property? Since it's adjacent to a residential
If
home?
he converts it to a residential property, then he completely forecloses the opportunity to ever change it back. He gives up his non-conforming use, so it's not something that he really
Wants to do,
wants to do.
consider what I want to do.
So, obviously, I'm sensitive to the concerns of the adjacent residential property owner, or I would not have worked to try to come up with all of the concessions to try to insulate them from potential negative outcomes here. And I believe that it's possible to coexist, maybe next door to a modest-sized retail enterprise of this size. The zoning and planning committee last week did recommend that the commission support this EZA application. And as it is in my single-home district, I'm going to make a motion that ANC6E support the application for zoning relief for 1525 9th Street Northwest to allow retail non-office use of the ground floor with the stipulations included in the letter from the owner of 1525 9th Street LLC. And I would ask, and we communicate that support to the Board of Zoning Adjustment, and I would ask for a second.
I second.
Properly moved and seconded. Any further discussion before the commission? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Let's get a show of hands just so we can count. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 in favor, those opposed, 2 opposed, no abstention, the motion carries. And the motion was made by myself and was seconded by Commissioner Macro. So thank you very much. I encourage the owners of 1523 to participate in the BZA process so that the Board of Zoning Adjustment understands your concerns and can take them into consideration. Perhaps there are additional mitigation measures that they would recommend that include in their zoning order after hearing from you, if they decide to grant that. Again, the ANC is only advisory. We did not make the decision. We will make the recommendation to the Board of Zoning Adjustment.
Okay, well, thank you all.
We've been joined by representatives from the Metropolitan Police Department's First District, and we would invite the representatives to come forward and address it at this time.
Good evening, everybody. Sergeant Martello, District PSA 103. This is Officer Griffin. She works at PSA 103 too. She happened to be in the area, so I just asked her to come up with me. I'm just going to read the stats from for the month and then answer any questions anybody has. Like that. All right, so 30 days versus last year. So homicides were at 0, we're at 0 last year. 0 substitutes, 0 last year. ADWs were down 40%, we had 5 last year and 3 this year at this time. And robberies were actually up from 3 to 7, so we're actually up in robberies. But overall, violent crime is actually down 18%, and property crime is actually down 23%. Burglaries are down from 7 to 2. Stolen autos are down from 75, deaths from auto are down 29 to 20. And arsons are, excuse me. All right, so year to date, basically they're showing the same numbers. ADWs are down 40%, no homicides, robberies are actually up again. And the numbers pretty much are consistent with that, so I'm not gonna read those, it's pretty much exact same numbers from year to date. So, yeah, that's PSA 103, so does anybody have any specific questions about specific areas? I know a lot of this is 3D, right? So, does anybody have any questions about 103 or anything else I can answer?
You get chance. You get chance. You finish.
Okay.
Did you have a question, Commissioner Barnes?
No, I will finish.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nothing about service report 103? Okay.
Well, that's me.
Okay, yeah.
That's me.
All right. I guess that was easy. All right, thanks.
Thank you very much. We have a public space case, Starbucks, 850 Street Northwest, City Market, NO Starbucks.
My name is Joe Spinelli with Starbucks Coffee, and we're here to discuss our application at O Street. For those of you who aren't familiar with the location, we're between 8th and 9th Street. We're proposing an unenclosed cafe. It's relatively simple. We're not doing any umbrellas, no railings, just loose tables and chairs. The store's been open since December 21st last year. We have roughly around 30 seats inside the space. What we're proposing is 12 seats in front of the space, just loose tables and chairs. One chair will be a handicap seat. We have about, from the storefront, which is here, this is the front door. This is 8th Street, 9th Street on Border. We've got about 15 foot 6 inches from the storefront to the curb. And we've got about 10 feet from the storefront to the tree box. We have one tree box in this one area. We only have about 7 foot 7 clearance from the table to the tree box, which is a little bit short of what we normally put in for clearance. We'll discuss with the public space committee today. They're able to reduce up to 6 feet if the traffic patterns warrant that. So we're going to ask for that there. But so we'll have a total seats of about 42 seats with inside and outside. We're taking up about 180 square feet of space we'll be renting basically. So that's about it.
So folks that are familiar with the Starbucks, know that there's been some seating out there previously, and I guess they did that without getting all the appropriate permits.
Yeah, that's kind of what they do sometimes.
So they're trying to do it the right way. Make sure that they have the correct permits and that there's enough room there for folks to be able to get by as well. So, questions on the part of the commission? Yes, so
Yes.
this is the Starbucks that is between Convivial Restaurant and the Cambria Suites Hotel on the north side of the 800 block of Oak Street Northwest. Any questions on the part of the community? Yes, Grant.
Isn't this the same Starbucks that was in here like 3 months ago asking to serve alcohol?
That is correct.
And now they're gonna serve it outside?
I don't recall whether or not that is part, they would not have been able to apply for that because they did not have a public space
They're
permit
nickel
at
and
the time.
diming us.
So they would have to
This
come
is a-
back.
Alcohol outside is a big deal that they're trying to go off of.
So this is an unenclosed,
Unenclosed, all loose tables and chairs, no railing, so we may have some restrictions with the ABRA with the railing thing. There's not a lot of room here. So they would have to come back if they decide to do anything. This is just right now.
so outdoor service was not contemplated in the application that they put forward.
But, I mean, I'm not gonna table service, so people are gonna buy their goods counter and take it outside.
There's no outdoor service, so it's going to be incumbent on the management to make sure that no one leaves the premises with alcoholic beverages, with open
Same
containers
management
of
that said
alcoholic
tables
beverages.
illegally is good to mind it.
That's a good point. There was a question from Mr. Mulder.
Yeah, I'm sorry, at that last meeting, maybe I missed another meeting, I specifically asked if they were going to be serving one on site and why would they open it up? Did they decide later that they weren't going to serve wine on site? Because they told us that they would.
I'm not recalling that right
I-
now.
you-
Does anyone recall that?
We'd have to go back and look. I remember you asking the question though, but I don't remember the answer.
But can I answer that? They're gonna have to come back to modify their license to serve liquor outside. So you would get another bite at this apple here if that was a problem for the community, and you would have to deny that.
And that's,
But they
my
could-
recollection is that Amber wouldn't allow them to apply for a summer garden permit without having a public space permit application in place, and they didn't have it at the time.
So you're not serving alcohol yet?
No, no,
At all?
no.
So at present, no alcohol is served?
And just to their defense, the manager that's serving the alcohol and putting the table, it's a standard procedure, they just put tables out. They think they have the permits all the time, they're a big company, they don't always know what they don't have, so we told them to take that off.
So we're gonna make sure that you continue to advise them on that as they move across the city with their new business model. All right, any questions on the part of the commission? Any other questions on the part of the public? This is in my single-member district, and I'll make a motion that AACCC support the public space application for a Starbucks at 815 Oak Street Northwest, and then we communicate that support to the district fund transportation and public space committee, and I would ask for a second. It's been moved by myself and seconded by Commissioner Nocita. Any further discussion on the part of the commission? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous, thank you very much, that's 7-0-0.
Thank you very much, appreciate that.
Next zoning and historic preservation case is 1512 6th Street Northwest.
Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear my voice. I'm Travis Price Architects, Kelly Davis Grace Architect, and our owner, Rob Carter, is in the audience with us. We're essentially, I'm going to try and angle this, everybody. This is an existing house, 1512. Here, and I'll show that to you in a minute. This is the neighborhood. This is across the street.
Do you have copies of these handouts for?
We didn't know we were bringing them, so sorry. But we're gonna, hopefully we'll get some, sorry. This is the fairly tall structure next door. This is 1510 and 1514. This analysis you're looking at, I'll come back to in a minute, but we're actually proposing yeah.
Play Vanna White.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how to. So this is the existing elevation, which I think is a little stronger in this image. This is the building next door, and this is the tall building next to it. We're actually asking to take, this has 4 apartments, we're keeping 4 apartments. It has no parking, we're actually putting in 2 parking spaces in the back. And on this site plan, you'll see, right here. This is the current building, and we're gonna, what's happening really while we're here is for the BZA approval of getting rid of this fairly narrow alley. Historically, these alleys are all over the place. They tend to get pushed away because they become rat traps, they become dangerous spots. It's really not useful. And the building is really ready to go. It's not really functioning, it's literally falling apart. And our job now is what we'd like to do is actually put an infill building that's actually shorter, still 4 apartments. It is 1 story higher, but it's well under, as you can see in the elevations. What was there before? What was there before was this height. We're still well under this height, and part of this is a solar study for the neighbor who wants to actually apply solar hot water systems or solar PV systems to the house. And we're in the midst of that study. But this would actually allow, for the first time, a handicap accessible unit at street level, which we think is a real plus. It's a shorter building to the back, so there's more green space in the back. And basically, a much more attractive building, much better operation than what's there there now. So there's really no big changes except that for the BZA, by taking away the deserted alley and so on, and making it a better building, we now, if we kept the same imprint, we would conform to the normal print, which is to take up the whole lot. So we're asking for an appeal on that zoning as well to comply essentially. I think we have two neighbors that we agreements from, or letters of support. One, we're in the midst of, as I said, helping him with his solar analysis. I think we found some solutions that we can work out, and signed agreements and so forth. We went to the hearing Thursday night with the subcommittee and seemed to have a pretty good response, unanimous, I hope. That's what I heard. And our building is modern. It's going to have wonderful balconies. You can actually have some street presence for a change. Nicer, bigger back system, and just like 2 parking spaces. Short of that, that's really why we're here.
So this property is in Commissioner Chapel's single district.
I did speak with the applicant. So, can you pull this up?
Yeah, sure.
So, what you're asking is that there's a side yard or a small little alley. What's the distance or the width of that? 2 foot, 2 feet, and you would like to have, enclose that so the building will not have this side alley that, and it will be adjacent to the neighbor to the left, correct? So, yes, I did speak with them. I do know that the committee supported their application for relief, and I am supportive of it also. And I move that NC16 support the applicant's relief and communicate our support to the BGA, and ask for a second.
Any questions or comments from members of the commission? Questions or comments from members of the audience? I'll just make the same comment that I made to the applicants at the zoning and planning committee last week, and confirm what Mr. Chapel mentioned. The committee did recommend the full commission support the application. I think it's unfortunate that we've never expanded the Shaw Historic District to incorporate these blocks, because this is one of the few examples of buildings that have any Art Deco detailing in our neighborhood. The last, after this one, I think the last one is going to be the building that's being converted to condos over at 9th and T Streets.